Well, it's another beautiful day out there. And today I want to talk about what is. Now, I've talked about this a lot in here, and, I pretty much explained what is and what it is all about, but I think I need to go a little deeper in. So, being awakened is simply that you accept what is. You're okay with what is. You're not going to fight against what is. Okay? Now, we as human beings want things to be the way we want them to be, right? And we have models about all that, and you hear about models when the weather people get on, oh, this model, that model, this and that, and the other. All that's about the models that we have, which is a way of fighting against what is. What is that the world is the way it is. And if we fight against that and make a model in our head about the way we want it to be and try to change the isness, then we're going to suffer. And that's pretty much the whole idea. So, being okay with what is isn't that hard. Okay? I know a lot of people have said to me, well, if you're okay with what is, then doesn't that mean you let people walk all over you? Well, maybe that's what it means to some extent, but mainly what it means is that you are accepting of what is. Okay? Now, yes, it's true, people will walk all over you if you accept what is. But eventually, they'll realize that you're not fighting them. Everybody really in this world expects you to fight them. That's just the way it is. Whether you're fighting about money or real estate or whatever it is that you're fighting about, that's what everyone expects. When my idea of the world conflicts with your idea of the world, then we go to war. Right? Just like war on drugs, war on cancer, and war on a lot of other things. And actual war. So, to give you an idea of what that would be like, Putin thinks that Ukraine is part of Russia. And Ukraine thinks it's not. So, that's the isness. And as long as we don't accept what the isness says, then we are going to suffer. I don't want to see anybody suffer, but that's just the way it is. Being okay with what is. It seems so simple, right? But it's actually very difficult. Like, for instance, this hand. It hurts all the time. And I could be upset about it. I could curse and complain and say all sorts of things about it to myself and other people. But it just is. It's part of the isness. Everything that is the isness. Okay? And if I'm not okay with everything in the isness, then I'm going to be suffering. Okay? And that includes the furnace going on while I'm trying to talk on a video, and that includes the dog coming into the room, and so on and so forth. So, the main thing to realize here is that what is everything. And if you can't be okay with what is, then you're going to suffer. Okay? And that suffering is going to spread out from you like a plague. Because that's what suffering does. Just like that's what love does. Okay? And I've said before in other videos that spreading love is way better than spreading suffering. Okay? Anyway, to get back to the isness. So, why do we need to accept it? We need to accept it because if we don't accept that, we're going to suffer. Now, I don't know exactly how to explain what suffering is. I think we all know what it is. Basically, suffering is when something goes wrong in your life and you start to complain about it. That's what suffering is. You complain to yourself first, you know, and you say, "Oh, that son of a bitch," or whatever it is, right? And then you complain to anyone else who will listen. That's what suffering is. And you make up the story in your head about how terrible this person was, or what a terrible event it was that hurt you, okay, or whatever it is that you're suffering from, okay? Now, I could be suffering from this hand. I could be telling everybody that I know about this horrible hand and how it hurts so much. But it's just pain, okay? And pain is not suffering, okay? Pain is pain. And obviously, there's something wrong with his hand, and there's something wrong with my knee, and there's something wrong with his elbow, and so on and so forth, okay? And the reason that is because I'm old. You know, that's what happens when you get old, aside from everything else. So, I have to accept this hand and everything else that is. A big truck rumbles by outside and leaves a cloud of pollution into my area. You know, I have to accept it. Because if I don't, then I'll be running around going, right? Which isn't going to help anything. So, accepting what is the key to everything. If you are okay with what is, then you're going to be awakened. That's it. Okay? Now, a lot of people will say, oh no, it's this and that or the other, but you know what? It's not. It is accepting what is that awakens you. Also, realizing what is. Okay? I mean, that's part of it. But if you don't accept what is in your life and in others, then you will suffer. And happiness is the opposite of suffering. We all love happiness, right? And love, joy, peace, all that stuff's so great, isn't it? But if you're suffering, then all that stuff is just so far distant. So, being okay with what is, accepting what is, not complaining, not trying to get things to change. You know, I mean, obviously, I would love things to change. I would love, you know, for this planet to stop dying. I would love for the wars to stop, the suffering to stop that's going on all over the world. But that's just not going to be. None of that stuff can be. Because this is humanity. This is what humanity does. Okay? And if I can't accept the isness of humanity, then I don't have a right to say that I understand what is. Right? Now, we as humans, okay, or human beings, have a choice to make every day. Okay, and that choice is, do we accept what is or do we fight against it? And if you fight against it, you are going to suffer. Even if you're Vladimir Putin or Netanyahu or anybody else who's fighting against the isness, okay? You're going to suffer, all right? It may not happen now, but somewhere along the line, it'll happen, okay? Now, in order to prevent that, you must accept what is, okay? And that includes your life. And also includes everything else, too. and be okay with whatever happens. That's like one of the big ones. Okay, stuff's gonna happen. That's just the way life is. Stuff is going to happen. Okay, and as that stuff happens, you have to be okay with it or suffer. Okay. Now, you know, there's a lot of ways to be okay with what is. One of them is to say, I accept everything the way it is and I have no complaints whatsoever. Okay? I have no complaints about what is. And that's a great way to begin. Okay? Because complaining is just part of suffering. Okay? We all have done it. There's no question about it. But in order to not be trapped, okay, we have to stop. And that means getting in touch with what is. Okay, accepting what is. Recognizing what is. And one of the things that is that you are not a person. You are a soul. And as a soul, you have access to God and His love, His joy, His peace, His wisdom, His understanding, His creativity, and everything else you could possibly think of that's God related. Now, I know that sounds a little crazy, but if you want to know God, okay, you can go to a church, find out about Him there, or you can simply accept what is. Whatever happens in this life, we have two ways of dealing with it. We can react, okay, and fight against the isness, or we can accept what is. I know I keep talking about this, but it's part of what this, thing is. And I don't want to bore you with the isness of what is, but it's just super important to accept what is. Now you can say, oh, well, how do you know that this is what is? And we can all fight against what is the isness. But that's not going to do any good, right? What is that you are not a person. This personhood has been wrapped around you. Okay? And as such, you need to break out of it. Okay? Because you're not making decisions at this point in time. You are being driven. Okay? There's an ego that's in charge, and it's making decisions right now. Okay? And that's because that's just the way it is. Okay? And so, in order to accept what is, we have to get rid of the ego. And we can do that by simply accepting who we are. That's the first big step. Okay, you can't accept the isness of everything else if you can't accept the isness of your own self. Okay? And that includes what sex you are, what your skin color is, so on and so forth. Okay? And fighting against the isness is only going to bring you sorrow. So, you're not a person. You are a soul. A beautiful, untouched soul. A being of light. We are not these fleshy things. We are luminous beings. Anyway. So, accept who you are. And who you are is a soul. There's also a lot of other things about you that you may have a hard time accepting. Okay? That's on you. But start with who you really are, really, really, really deep inside, because that's the soul. Okay? When you look into your eyes, you're looking into the window of the soul, right? That's what everybody says eyes are, right? Okay? And that's who you are. All this other stuff, the way you look, whether you're beautiful or ugly, or whether you have a good body, all that stuff just doesn't matter. Okay? Because you are a soul. Okay? Well, the clock on the wall is telling me that it's about time I shut up. So, please remember who you are and accept what is. Have a great life.